Okay, we are now officially recording, and I am going to show my screen with everybody. So everybody should be seeing, if they're not seeing already, Alex there doing a really funky move, which he can describe here in a second. But
Three-legged crow pose.
three-legged crow pose, there you go. So I'm going to just do a quick introduction, and then Alex, I'll let you take it from there and do your thing. Um, but like I said, for those of you just getting on the call, lines will be muted just to eliminate as much background noise as possible. Again, this is going to be recorded and sent out to about 1,000 runners that are getting ready for various fall half marathons and marathons. So we want to make sure this is a good quality recording here. You have a question, type it in there in the chat box. We'll get to it. Again, I'm Coach Seth. Most of you know me already, either via these webinars, through the phone conversations, email, my weekly tips that you all get. So I feel like I don't need much more of an introduction, but I want to get to our presenter tonight. And I'm really excited to have Alex Hofeldt. Did I pronounce the last name
Yeah,
correct?
Hofeldt,
Okay.
there you go. Got it
Hofeldt.
right.
Yeah, Alex Hofeldt. I asked because people butcher my last name all the time. So just want to make sure. So I'm excited to have Alex Hofeldt on the call tonight, leading the charge. Actually, I'm super excited. Probably the most excited I've been on one of these webinars because I think that we're going to get some really great information on a lot of different things, which Alex will get into. And I think that there are going to be some really tangible things that we can all take away from this and apply to our daily practice, not only in training for our particular race, but just in everyday life and just how to feel better as you go through life. So a little bit of background about Alex, so you know the guy who's going to be leading the way here tonight. So Alex is a high school science teacher. He has a degree in biology with a secondary science certificate. 9 years teaching high school science, as I mentioned, biology and astronomy. He is a registered yoga instructor with 2 years experience up here in Lake County, for those of you who are familiar with the Chicagoland area. He's also a level 1 CrossFit coach. He's got 5 years experience coaching CrossFit group fitness classes. He teaches Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics, calisthenics, as well as workout of the day based principles, which is or WOD, which is a CrossFit term. He's a Titleist Performance Institute L1 certified. He is a science communicator, motivational speaker. He's also an ambassador for Lululemon Athletica in Deer Park. One thing in looking at Alex's bio that I love, his goal is to help people express and find their human capacity to move, and that's through yoga, CrossFit, and his new method called YoBility, which is yoga plus mobility, which he's going to get into. So, Alex, did I leave anything out?
No, man, it sounds pretty good. It's a lot to read when you write it all down.
Well, as I'm reading this, I'm like, man, this guy has done he's done a lot, and I haven't done much. So,
Oh,
but,
stop it.
no, this is really cool. So let me just ask, Alex, can you see my screen? You see yourself there, right?
Yeah, I see the screen, and then I clicked the little chat icon. Is that when or we have we
Yeah,
not opened the chat up yet?
yeah. You can open the chat. That's fine. So let me actually get this into slideshow mode here. Cool. All right. So without further ado, Alex Hofeldt.
All right. So, welcome. It's awesome to be here. I met Seth doing this through the charity. I just kind of reached out and said, "Hey, if you guys ever need anything to help with the charity in terms of the yoga mobility world, let me know because this is going to be my first marathon as well. I had a wedding come up. My oldest friends invited me to be on his wedding, so I'm actually going to have to run the Milwaukee Marathon the week before and bail on the Chicago, which I'm really bummed about, but I got to be in the wedding. He's my homie. So yeah, I just wanted to enliven you guys a little bit, enlighten you on the world of mobility because, like it says, it says 5 years of coaching experience, 2 years with yoga. But I mean, I've been a dynamic mover my whole life. Never getting quite into fitness as I was, but I played college golf. I was a huge freestyle skier, so just always really enjoyed movement. And a few years ago, started dabbling with yoga. Then I got really into CrossFit. I ended up hurting myself a little bit. I ended up tweaking my shoulder. And even though I was doing mobility, it made me realize that you needed a lot more of it. And the way people talk about injury, kind of, I don't know, it aggravates me, and it aggravated me when I was injured. I got tired of people patting me on the back and being like, oh, just heal up, it's part of the game, you know. And then you hear about the statistics of running. Now I'm really diving into the running world now, getting ready for myself and to try and help you guys out and others as well. How, like, what, 85% of runners get injured in their time, and Achilles injuries are up 400%. All these I can't even, you can just list them for days on these incredible statistics that are going up. And it doesn't have to be that way. And we're all here, and we can all fix ourselves. We all have this ability to kind of perform basic maintenance on ourselves. And in all of it, what we know as coaches and what we love is it's recovery. It's mainly prevention. It allows you to do. My goal is to let you do the things you want to do for longer. Where for you, this will drastically increase performance in multiple appearances, which we'll talk about. But the first one is, like, first off, if you're injured, you can't run. People always have a hard time. They want to go out and they want to hit the trails. They want to do running and all that. But if you're injured, you're not training. So it's something to really do, and something to take almost as seriously, if not more seriously, than we do our running and our nutrition and our sleep and such. So yeah, the YoBility method kind of just came to me by always liking yoga, and then there's a guy named Kelly Starrett who I've gotten really into, which is kind of why Seth and I bonded in the world of fitness. If both people know Kelly, you're like, oh, we're like bros for life. But I've got to meet the guy, but he just puts so much information out there, and he runs mobilitywod.com. He's one of my, I call him my guru. Every yogi has their guru. Mine is not a yoga teacher. It's definitely Kelly. So I got really into his mobility practices, which we'll talk about, more myofascial release, the stuff that's getting pretty mainstream, even past foam rollers, like the lacrosse balls, the bands, banded stretching. It's becoming more and more popular. And I did yoga, and then when I was doing yoga, I started to, like, bring my lacrosse ball to the yoga studio, and I would roll around on it before class, or I'd roll on my water bottle, and started seeing the power of it. And then when I took the yoga breathing and the yoga methodologies home with me when I was on the ball and started to move on the ball, doing his mobility work while being in a yoga mindset in terms of the breathing and the slow roll and movement, I just kind of dawned on me, like, why not just blend these two worlds together, and instead of just turning into, like, do this mobility, this mobility, this mobility, or this yoga flow or whatever, turn them into flows and try and get it going, which is something that's hard to convey here. It's something you'd have to watch the videos and such, but that's kind of what it is. What we're doing is we're just taking yoga, what you call the asanas, which are the poses, mixing it with a really powerful thing that some people think is really woo-woo, and it can totally be, just bro up on it if you want. You don't need to get that weird about it. Just the breathing. The breathing is huge, and now Kelly in all his videos, he cues the breath in every single video, which is pretty cool to see. He works a lot with Jill Miller, who's another yogi that's a really big one. And then these myofascial release techniques, which it's really all, I don't really know what to call it. What you think about is your stereotypical smashing of your muscles via on a foam roller, a lacrosse ball. We'll talk about some voodoo bands. I'll talk about some of the tools we can use here in a second. And it just does everything. It increases the range of motion, not just in your muscles, but it can get the joints going. And that's one of these big things that are there. And like it says in the last sentence here, for you, it'll increase ROM, range of motion in the joints. It's also going to increase performance. There's nothing, in my opinion, that I can do with you that will have a more quick impact on your running, on your physical life, than mobility, period. Like, nutrition takes time, PRs take time, increasing speed or weight or whatever it is you're doing in terms of moving weight. It takes a lot of time, but one mobility session can unlock some new range of motion that's going to get you going. And then therefore, you'll run more efficiently, you'll run more effectively, you'll run safer, which will then decrease fatigue. And a big one for us, especially as the marathon gets going here, is recovery time, because it'll help you with recovery to recover the muscles. And the little side caveat is it helps you sleep. When done correctly, it actually stimulates what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. It can help you sleep, and you're just going to be in a much more dynamic state. You're going to be able to move and train it a lot at a much faster rate. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is in a long nutshell there. So yeah, so this next slide here, I started to break it down because we only have an hour here. It was also hard for me. I wanted to get more pictures going with this, but it's something that all these things are very searchable on the internet, and I don't want to sound like I'm being lazy. It was just my camera was not uploading at the rate that I wanted it to for this project. But So we'll break it down first into what we think of as the yoga, and then we'll go into what's more the mobility. One of the things that yoga does for us that's huge in this one, there's a pose called Tadasana, which if you've ever taken a yoga class, it's usually what they start with. They call it mountain pose. In reality, for the non-yogi, we don't need any Sanskrit or anything going on here. Like I totally am cool with. I don't take yoga as seriously as your every yoga instructor in terms of the the methodologies of the wording and the Sanskrit, and then like I call it the woo-woo side of yoga. I just love it as what it is, what it can do for you, and it just unlocks a lot of potential. So the first one here is what's called Tadasana pose. It's called mountain pose. It's your perfect posture. It's just a way of setting up your body to be in a perfect postural state. And right from the get-go, slide one here, if you take nothing from this, like if you do not work mobility and you want to do at least something to make yourself better, work on your posture. I mean, period, exclamation point, times 10. Start from the ground up. First off, when you stand up from this webinar, or if you're just listening and want to stand up now, see how your feet go. Your feet have to be straight. When you're running, your feet have to be straight. If you're running like a duck, you're in my opinion, you're really setting yourself up for a lot of issues in terms of patellar tracking, the way your knee moves, ankle, feet, which will lead into your hips. The whole body's connected. It's just going to go upstream and downstream. So bring that posture with you all day. If you stand better, you're going to perform better. And it organizes your body. And then as you get going, as the posture moves, if any running coach like Seth or Diane or anybody that we know that will coach you running, in essence, ideally it's your perfect form, just in a forward motion of the run. When you get really tired, that form breaks down. You start losing your breath. You start losing stuff, and it starts to go down. And then, like it says, the other thing with the yoga is the breathing aspect of it. The breathing is really, really big. So I kind of give you some key points here to organize your body. So we call it the bracing sequence in CrossFit, but it works perfectly for just resetting yourself throughout the day. And at first, the Tadasana pose, and if you're working on your posture, like sitting in this chair, and my upper back is getting tired because I have a tendency to slouch when I'm in a chair, I'm kind of leaning into the screen a little bit. So as you work this, the posture is going to change. Your baseline's going to move. So as you're able to work the posture, you can kind of get the shoulders moving up and back, and at first it's going to feel like you're peacocking. It's going to, I struggle with the girls. I forgot if I'm sure there's some females who will listen to this. It's struggling sometimes, I feel, which is totally cool. I understand that if I work you to like bring your shoulders back and down and kind of, have that strong position, it has, stick your female parts out there, which I get that might feel a little daunting, but just be proud that you're working your posture. And it'll first feel very difficult, like standing with perfect Tadasana posture, walking posture, all the good postural poses will take a while, but what's going to happen is your baseline is going to move. If you were very forward rounded, shoulders way forward, and then you work them, first it's going to be challenging, and you'll realize that the baseline, like your default, is going to change, and then that's what's going to change when you get tired. I mean, we're going to run 26.2 miles. Your body's going to lose posture. You're not going to look as good as what you look like at the beginning. And that's one of these things that I work towards when we do yoga or we do CrossFit. I always try and get these people in my YoBility classes set up for their best rep because they're going to fatigue. So we need to be in a state as possible for as long as possible. So as the fatigue sets in, our baseline is better. Like our default exhausted baseline is going to be much better. So this one is the bracing sequence. This was supposed to be a video, which again, if you just search Kelly Starrett bracing sequence, there's plenty of stuff on it. This is something to do before you run. It's something to do if you're doing cross training with your running right now. This is the quintessential thing to cross training. If you go to a CrossFit gym or any gym with a coach and they have not taught you the bracing sequence, high five them and ask them to. And if they don't know it, go to a different gym. It's something that they really should know and know well. So it just starts by put your feet straight, and we always pick up the toes, set them back down. And number one is just squeeze your butt. If you squeeze your butt, your body's going to be in a really good organized position. It aligns the pelvis, it rotates the knees out, and then that's a good thing to do. So you squeeze the butt, and then when it says pull the rib cage down, it's if I was in front of you right now and somebody asked me this in one of my clinics, like, well, how do I get my abs braced? And I said, well, what would you do if I was about to punch you? And they kind of bend forward and their abs crunch together. Not sucking in like you're trying to show off for your girlfriend. You're more pushing out like you're trying to inflate your abdominals. And then you have the arms externally rotated, which external rotation is just if you hold your thumbs up, that's good. If you hold your thumbs down, you have to internally rotate your thumbs. So external rotation is much better. So then the shoulders back and down, just if you're sitting in your chair right now, and again, you can't see me, you can just kind of shrug your shoulders towards your ears and then feel yourself not only move them away from your ears, but activate down your back muscles. And if you feel the muscles in your back pull, that's called your subscaps, and that's a really good thing. And then the 20% global squeeze, the guy on the left there above the M is named Brian McKenzie. He's an ultra marathoner. He runs what's called CrossFit Endurance, and him and Kelly are very tight, very, very good coaches. They're some of the best in my opinion. So Brian always talks about when you're running, your abs and butt need to be engaged upwards of 20%. So you just engage your abs while running for as long as possible, as long as it doesn't hinder breathing. So that's what the bracing sequence was. That's just a good postural thing. So what slide is next? Should have this memorized. Yeah. So breathing really quick here. Breathing is something we lose sight of really quickly, and it's something that working yoga, not only does this unlock you into, like, awakens you to your body, a big thing is that it awakens your mind. And I was totally somebody who got, and I sat there thinking, I'm going to go in and stretch because I'm a bro. Like, I'm a dude. I'm not going to worry about this yoga. I'm going to go in, I'm going to stretch, but I'm not going to worry about your fruity breathing. And as I got going on it, it started really understanding. I was like, well, I'm here. I might as well breathe. So what this does for us, first off, you got to understand how your diaphragm works. If you watch yourself running and feel yourself running, the next time that you are really short of breath, and just be mindful of it, again, waking up how we're doing, chances are you have this tendency to kind of default always forward. We call it flexion. We always, like, you're doing an ab crunch. Our world sets us up for sitting in flexion as opposed to extension, like doing a big back bend. With our texting, our computers, our sitting, really anything. And your diaphragm goes all the way up. If you could just kind of trace the bottom of that V of your rib cage, I tried to give you a little picture here. It just shows this, and a lot of people don't know how the diaphragm works. If you do, I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but when you inhale, the diaphragm actually drops. It'll drop down towards your belly button, and when you exhale, it goes up, and it's just hydrostatic pressure. It's like squeezing a balloon. So if you can picture, if you're running and you're in this total forward position, you got your arms all rotated forward, everything is falling towards, like, your sternum, kind of falling, like squeezing your pecs, you're going to hinder your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is just going to simply be hindered throughout the run, and you're not going to get the air, and as you don't get air, you can't do cellular respiration, and you run out, and you can't buffer the lactic acid, and everything goes downwards there. You see it a lot in dudes, more so than girls, honestly. When I coach a lot of the CrossFitters on running, I can't breathe and I run. I'm like, well, yeah, you're almost falling forward. So I just gave you some examples of that. Starting a breathing practice is a pretty easy thing. You can call that mindfulness. It doesn't have to be mindful. You can just sit up tall and take in nice breaths. And then having a clear nasal passage is really a big deal. Try and breathe through your nose for as long as possible. Your nose has a lot, from like a yoga and a science standpoint. It gets the air regulated. It filters out particulates. It hydrates the air a little bit. It's just a much more effective way of breathing. So when you're running a long run, we're supposed to have a nice even pace. We're not going to burn it down right at the beginning until the end. Try and keep your nose breathing as much as possible. And this is kind of like extra credit. The mobility side is there, but if you can also incorporate in a little breathing practice, you're going to be in a much better state. So the first thing I have everyone do is I just have you sit up tall and just start breathing normal, just to see how your diaphragm is moving. When you inhale, your stomach should actually push out towards your hand, and exhale, it should move away from your hand. A lot of us do that backwards. We call it chest breathing. So you can picture you want that stomach to distend to get out of the way to let the diaphragm drop. We don't want to constrict that by pulling the abs on in. So just start by just taking 10 slow breaths. I just do it where I try and count up to 5, and then I just pause at the top for a little bit. I exhale for 5 seconds, nice and slow, pause at the bottom, and I repeat that. Some people do what's called box breathing. You could just inhale for 5 seconds, then you hold it at the top for 5, exhale for 5, and hold for 5, and you just repeat the box. I actually move my hand, or I'll count out 5 seconds on my fingers. So that's just a quick little example of how breathing works, which is a big part of what I consider to be more yoga than mobility. All right, next. So yeah, again, this was supposed to be a video. It doesn't seem like it's linking it to you. So we won't talk too long on this one. If you go to facebook.com/YoBility, or just search YoBility on Facebook, you'll see these videos. I put up 2 series of this. This one was my morning flow. I came up with like some 10 to 12 minute videos that get you moving in the morning. I did a little 7-day challenge, and I really like this one. This one I was confident with putting out there. It's something to do to get you going in the morning. Upward hands pose is just like you're doing like snow angels. Cat cow is a very simple posture you can do. And then this thing called sun sal A, or sun salutation A, or like Surya Namaskar A if you get really into it, is a very easy, linked up, very classic. Like there's not a yoga class I teach where you don't do at least one sun sal A. And you can look that up really easily and just do some of those. The key in the morning is just to get moving. Even if you're an early morning runner, you can do these to get you going. And these postures are designed to allow you to breathe easily and breathe big. And the breathing will get you stimulated. It'll get your sympathetic nervous system fired up, energizing you for the day, for the run, for whatever. So if you go on the facebook.com, which we can probably provide some links here, really straightforward, just facebook.com/YoBility. Go down, you'll find the videos linked, or just go to YouTube and just search in YoBility. And this was my YoBility challenge number 1, A flow. Which, yeah. All right. So I did a little list here as we kind of move into the mobility side. Really honestly believe that the mobility is more powerful and can do a quicker bang for your buck kind of thing than yoga. However, the two worlds combined together are even better. But I kind of rank these on their biggest problem spots here. I rank them in kind of order of importance, in my opinion, like what I see the most issues with people. And number 1 is going to be your feet. Doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're working towards, running, athletics, dynamic living, just straight up walking and standing. Our feet are our connection point to the ground. 25% of the bones in our body are integrated in our feet. And if you follow, I'm a biologist, so I've studied a lot of evolution over the years. The evolutionists believe that in terms of anatomy and biomechanics, our feet are hands down our greatest, no pun intended, are hands down our greatest adaptation. They're very malleable, and I read the Born to Run book, and that was what really stuck to me. Was there was a big section on the one guy who was one of the ultra marathoners, talking about how he runs in pretty much bare feet because they're malleable. So start with the feet, and we won't talk about mobilities yet. Make sure you're handling your feet. The ankles and calves go up next. Which is everyone knows the ankles and calves. The T-spine is a really big issue because it can hinder breathing, and it's really the biggest problem in our posture. It's almost chronic in our modern society with the way that everything folds us forward. The T-spine is the upper part of your spine that's connected to your rib cage. And most of us, it's very frozen. It's very, very, very stiff. And it's supposed to be actually our mobility spine, meaning it's supposed to have a ton of movement, side to side, rotationally, up and back. And our lumbar, which is the floating ones, the rib cage around your gut, that's actually supposed to be our stability spine. And most of us do that backwards. You see it in yoga class, you see it in fitness all the time, where the T-spine is so frozen that we move in our lower spine, and that hinders the pelvis, lower back pain. It has a lot of cascading effects. Glutes is your butt. That's the strongest muscle in your body, and it's a lot of times for a lot of us, it's one of the weaker ones. Because we live in a forward-folded world, we put a lot of strength into our quads. So, I follow the pose running method, the midfoot running, and even any running, unless it's like a very aggressive heel strike, you're squeezing your butt the whole time. The pull comes from the hamstrings and the butt, what we call our posterior chain. Hips is everybody's. I always make jokes that our hip flexors they hate us, like they're a little creature and they have a personality, but our hip flexors they're intense, but the crappy thing about them is that they're very elaborate, and it's not just that front muscle. Every yoga class you ask, like, anyone want to work on something? They're like, hips and shoulders. I'm like, okay, so your whole body, like, let's go, And so it's always funny. The quad and hamstrings, those are really important too. None of the ranking of this is not that. It's kind of arbitrary. The quad and hamstrings can really get blown up, especially for what we call the chronic, the IT band. The IT band, which is that most of us, it would probably feel like a hose, like you can wiggle and like move this big cord that would connect all the way from your knee all the way up into like the Levi pocket, which is called the TFL, like where that little pocket on your Levi jeans are. And then also the quad, which is the front, can also translate into the inner legs, and the inner legs are nasty. As I've done more running and as I've done more yoga and such in this training, really seeing the importance of the inner legs, which are called the adductors. And then lastly, which is very new, is the importance of smashing out your gut muscles. And it's exactly what it thinks about. It's, in essence, mobilizing your abs. And it's interesting. You won't like it. It feels really weird, but there's a huge amount of musculature in our core. And any of you guys that are in the fitness know and have heard that the core is the most important part. We have to take care of that in the same way as possible. We need to mobilize that thing out the same way we mobilize our quads, our ankles, our feet, and that's a really important one. And then the shoulders are important too, but I'm not really, everyone knows that, and it's not as important in running. Sorry, somebody moved and now my dog's barked. It's not as important in running, but the shoulders are really there. But anyways, sorry. When I talk about this, I talk fast because I feel like there's so much to cover. But the first thing you got to know about your mobility is what I wrote there at the bottom, is that every single thing is connected. That all of it, no matter what, You're just connected by this thing, if you see that word up there, called myofascial. Myofascial is the fiber that connects our skin to our muscles and also muscle to muscle. And if you're, sorry if you're a vegetarian, but if you've ever had chicken and peeled the skin off and there's that little white film under the chicken or surrounding the muscle, that's the fascial. So they used to think it was the actin and myosin, what you consider the muscle fibers that were stiff. And the more and more they learn about this, the more they see that it's the fascial lines. And there's a book in front of me right now called Anatomy Trains I'm studying, where there's just seeing that you're pretty much fascial is connected all up and down. So when we're doing this mobility stuff, people always want a quick fix on a singular point, like my knee hurts or can I fix X? And the joints and other things, I call them the canary in the coal mines. And this is a very easy thing to do, and this has taken place a lot in my practice where, I mean, I had a friend last year who said her knee was bugging her. I laid her down and I smushed out her IT band, just meaning I made little karate hands and went down her IT. She didn't like it in terms of, it feels like a deep tissue massage, which is always a love-hate relationship. She called me the next day and said for the last 2 years she's walked upstairs with knee pain, and for the first time when she was teaching at her high school, she could walk up the stairs second hour and her knee didn't hurt. So what that just shows is that it's not localized pain ever. It's this whole global thing as you see that. And it's one of the things that yoga and mobility can do is it unlocks our body, really teaching us and showing us what's up, showing us what needs to be fixed, and that's power. That's an empowerment thing to us. We think of it as a hindrance, but this amazing body of 37 trillion dynamic cells, if we know what's going on with it, we can fix it. We can take it, we can go after it. All right. What's the next one? So yeah, so I wanted to put a lot of information on the slide for you. I didn't know how much you guys would take from this, so it's a little small here. This is like a little bit of a guideline. It's a little I want to give you a little program to do. It seems very daunting. It seems like something that can really go there. So even skipping to the right side of it, before we get into any of this, just keep it simple. People make this way too complicated. And the more like I've studied videos for 5 years, I've gone through my yoga training, like hanging out with someone like me, I can teach you a lot and I can help you with more. But if you don't have me around and you don't feel like using the internet, just grab one of these tools that are on the left and just do work. Just make it happen. Don't think too far about it. Just make sure you stay away from, I always call it Sketchyville. When you're rolling stuff out, when you're stretching, walk the line between comfy and challenging in a stretch. You can get pretty deep into the pain cave with the balls if you've ever had a lacrosse ball or like a deep tissue massage. You can go pretty deep, but if it starts making you hop or your brain starts revving or you can't breathe, you get into like little Lamaze breathing, it's probably too deep. Also, if you feel hot prickle pain, you can actually hit a nerve, and you don't want to strip a nerve. You don't want to hammer the ball into a nerve because you just don't want to damage your nerves. But don't freak out. You'll know what's up. Your body will tell you what's going on. I gave you some tools there, and I did. I ranked those in order of importance. I have them next to me. I didn't know if we'd see me or not. Lacrosse balls cost $3. If you know someone who is on a lacrosse team, you can find a couple for free. I get used lacrosse balls from coaches all the time.
This is true.
Try and get at least I got like a box of like 15 of them, and I need some more, and I give them out to people all the time. Or if not, it's literally $3. I think it's the most powerful tool that you can give. I have one in my backpack almost every day. So the lacrosse balls are great. I always recommend having at least 2 of them. You can also do 3, and you can create what's called a peanut ball, where you just tape 2 of them together, and it looks like a peanut. It's great for mobilizing your spine and the front of your shins. But just get 2 lacrosse balls. You can get a bigger ball. There's some great ones out there. Kelly Starrett actually has some products. He has what's called a Supernova. It's this blue ball. If you search Supernova on the internet, you'll find it. It's this blue ball with teeth. It's really dense, really thick. It's good for people like me who have like a little bigger quads and such, because I can bottom out the lacrosse ball on the ground pretty quickly. And the teeth will also grab. It'll get the fascial movement. You want your skin to move. A good indicator, which people always don't like me telling you this, if you're like sitting in a chair right now and you reach down and grab your IT band, mine's pretty swollen because I went for a run and did some CrossFit the last couple of days. I can't grab a lot of skin off my IT band. You're actually supposed to be able to like grab, like really almost like you're rolling your shorts up. You're supposed to be able to pull the skin off of your body, and it's kind of interesting. But if you watch a video like Kelly, who's a very mobile dude, he can grab like a handful of skin off of it. And I guarantee some of you right now, if you've been really hard training, I bet I could barely pinch some skin off your IT bands. I know my Achilles, I can barely get skin off there. That's an indicator. So the balls can grab the fascial and get it moving. But a bigger ball, I have what's called Jegs balls. If any of you guys have kids or know someone who's on a softball team, they're those dimple yellow balls that you've seen in baseball. They also have them for softballs, and I got a couple for free from the softball coach at my high school. And those are great. I mean, and if not, you have to buy those. Those are less than $10, probably $6 a piece. Mobility stick. Most people know in running the sticks, and there's all kinds of them now. I have the stick. I have that one. It's nice. You can use a rolling pin, and also sometimes I like to freeze water bottles, and I'll use the water bottle as a rolling pin. I've been doing that. I tweaked my calf a little bit on a 9-mile run last week, and that really helped me out a lot. The stretching bands. Stretching bands are unique. I haven't made any videos on that because it's something that's at the gym. You can take these big rubber bands and anchor them to door frames or something that can hold you like a railing that, like my deck on the outside of my house can hold the railing, hold the band, and you can put the band around the joint and go into a stretch, and it'll distend the joint, it'll like pull the femur deeper, and it's really powerful stretching. I don't use it a lot because I'm doing when I'm on the internet because a lot of this is at home work, but it's a lot. I do a lot of work with that when I'm at the gym. Compression bands are epic. They're really a powerful tool that I just did a YoBility class with a big group of runners at Smith Running, and I brought out the Voodoo bands. That's what they're called. Kelly Starrett has them again, but they're really just compression bands. It's a thin rubber band. It's like a big roll-up, and you can take it and like tourniquet your muscles. It sounds really intense, but you can wrap them up like kind of like as if you were wrapping up like a bad ankle or something, and it creates just huge amount of range of motion. They called it voodoo bands because it worked so well at the beginning, and they didn't know why. It was like voodoo, and I highly recommend those. They're not overly expensive either. You can just search voodoo bands on the internet. And then I'm trying to get some videos lined up, and if not, you can use Kelly's videos on how to use those. Those are wonderful. Foam rollers everyone knows and loves, and I recommend the Rumble roller. Just a baby normal foam roller is it's too pansy-ish for me. It doesn't do a whole lot, so I have the one with the big teeth on it. But yeah, and then just always own your body always works. There's ways you can just use your elbow, you can use your own hands, you can use the bone saw, you can like lean your shin against your calf. So a lot of times you can use your own body or even the ground to roll yourself out. And then, like I said, just start with here's my little prescription here. Start with the KISS method. So just keep it easy. Always do it. Try not to take a day off of this. Just to start with, just sit on the ball. Put the ball right in your keister. Start rolling around, and it'll probably hurt. And that ball is going to lead it to bad spots. It seems to always want to find the spot that's tough. And what you got to know on this is that it's not supposed to hurt. It will, because we're human. But it's not supposed to hurt. So if you put the ball on your hip or something and it really is screaming at you, that means you need it. And the more it hurts, the more you have to be aware of it. And then the yoga comes in where you're breathing, you're on a really sticky spot. You just sit on the ball and just taking really deep breaths, And that's it. That's really all you got to do. Like I said, if it hurts and you can't breathe, it's too deep, back out a little, find a new spot. Or if it tingles and it stabs you, it has stabby pain, back out of it. But it's pretty straightforward stuff. Just keep it simple with that. So that's more the mobility aspect of it. And like I said, 10 to 20 minutes. I do a little bit of it before I run. I'll roll out my feet. I really am a big, the lacrosse ball with the feet is the easiest way to start as well. Start with that. I like to roll out my feet a little bit. Sometimes my calves before a run, but usually I just do more dynamic stuff. This stuff is great post-run, and it's also great before bed. If you've ever had a massage and wondered why you're tired, you're stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is opposite of the sympathetic. Your sympathetic is your fight or flight, and a lot of times with us, we need to. One of the caveats of it is be able to down-regulate for that. All right, we can go to the next one.
So let's take a real quick second, Alex. We'll pause, and I think it's worth noting, and Alex has mentioned, we'll definitely include links to a lot of these different. Or links to these different mobility techniques and everything like that, just so we all have an idea. That'll get included with along with the recording of the webinar. But let's take a second. If anybody has any questions, we understand that this may very well be brand new to you, these concepts. Definitely go ahead and type those into the chat section, and we'll get to those. So we'll move forward to the next slide here.
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to give you guys, people always want to know how, and it becomes second nature to you. First off, I'm dead serious though, just don't overthink it. People sometimes don't do it, I think, because they want to worry about it. And I know when I first started, it started thinking like, well, I got to get, but I did my hips for 10 minutes, like, oh, I got to get this, and an hour would go by, which is not, as a single man for me, it's doable. But for most of us, we have really busy lives. So just start. Set a timer. I recommend setting a timer and just get going. So just kind of like a mobility protocol here around your run. Like I said, the first thing you do is get up and do your thing. For me, I get up every morning. I'll sometimes do some like upward hand poses. I don't do a whole lot of moving right away. I'm kind of I love my mornings and it's my most chill time. So I'll get up, I'll drink my, couple cups of buttered coffee and all the weird stuff I do in the morning, eat my sardines because I'm a weirdo, and I'll kind of get going. I'm not just going to jump right out of bed and start doing yoga. I've tried it. I don't hate it, but I just like to chill out a little bit in the morning. But if you're a busy person, it doesn't hurt you. Don't do anything really intense like spinal movement stuff. That's why if you watch the YoBility AM flow, there is people that say your spine can actually has a slight swell to it when you wake up. Like I've read that. I've never tried it, but I've read that you're like an inch or two higher. You're actually a little taller in the morning, so you don't want to get into like really deep spinal twist and stuff. But most of us aren't going to do that anyways. So get up, do your thing, then drink plenty of water. I'm a really big believer lately. I've been putting sea salt in my water to get some electrolytes. It's much better for you than Gatorade. Gatorade, the electrolytes are just sodium and potassium and stuff that you can find in average table salt. The only thing you're missing is the sugar, which I don't think you need personally, but everyone has their own way of running. Then it says I usually do my normal dynamic warm-up. So I'll get going a little bit. I'll do some like calf bounces. I do kind of some of the pose methodology warm-ups from their web pages. And then I'll get a little bit going to mobility. For me, I'll get my feet rolled out. So I'll take my shoes back off. A lot of times I just warm up in my bare feet in the grass to get everything going before I put on my running shoes. And I'll roll out the feet and I'll open up my calves because those are my two biggest problems. And if once my calves go, then you start running really weird. You'll like be afraid if your calves are tweaking in a run. You'll start running in a really easy way or in a really goofy way, and that can really mess up. So I get that down. I'll do some feet. Maybe I'll get into like a nice little hip flexor stretch. I'll add a little dynamic movement, just like some basic forward fold, hamstring stuff, kind of moving through it. I don't do a lot of static stretches, meaning I don't just hold it. So you can picture like a forward fold, like I'm trying to touch my toes. I'll be bending my knees, like kind of pedaling my knees back and forth, coming up on my toes, coming down on my toes, twisting to the left a little, twisting to the right, kind of like with an almost bounce to it because I'm not looking to chill out. I want the body primed for movement. And then I do some technique work. So for me, I'm really working on the like I said, the pose method again. Just do some like quick butt kicks, some knees up, some like karaoke's, just the basic stuff you guys all know. And then go out for a run. Go out for your run, go do your thing. Depending on what time you're doing it, when you come back in, it's definitely important to take a cool down. Warm up and cool down are really the biggest issues I know in myself I struggle with and with others as well. Not taking enough time to warm up and also not the cool down. Right now in summer, sometimes I'll go on the longer runs and it's like I come back into my conditioned house and just want to sit down and drink something. That's not really what we need to do. So for me, I try and I let the dogs out. I'll let the dogs run around. I'll walk around a little bit, maybe take some more lunges, just take some big breaths, and the whole time I'm trying to catch that deep breathing going on. And then I'll get my nutrition in, whatever your diet is. I do paleo and other stuff like that, and buttered coffee. So just get your normal diet in, and then it's very, very good after a run to elevate your feet. One of the most powerful recovery things you can do, pretty much after you've cooled down, take a little time to move. Just sit with your legs up a wall. And what that'll do is it'll help your lymphatic system drain. Your feet are just due to gravity. They're going to go downwards, all the blood, the lymph, and the lactic acid. So if we elevate our feet, we can help our heart and our body pump out and metabolize the lactic acid, which, there you go. Now you're starting to go for recovery. Then I highly recommend, if you can, 10 to 15 minutes before bed to use more of the mobility ideologies, meaning that you get on the lacrosse balls, the rollers, you start to try and relax into the postures, down regulating your brain with your breathing, like smushing, not just the dynamic warm-up in the morning is more movement. This one I want you kind of static. I want you just to breathe deeply into the muscles, and I promise you this is going to help you before bed. They've actually have research that doing gut smashing, like stimulating and smashing out the muscles of your gut, drastically increases your parasympathetic nervous system, and it'll help you sleep. I know it happens to me all the time. If I'm ever with a friend or something, and we're doing some mobility, and then we start doing like foot smashing, where you actually stand on each other, which is pretty much like helping each other and giving each other a massage. You get really tired, and that's a great thing to do. That's why a lot of people don't do a lot of mobility work before a run, because it slows you down. Personally, it doesn't bother me too much. I really like mobilizing, but before bed is the most powerful time to do that, and that will give you a pretty darn good protocol. And then by doing that, you're easily at your 10 to 15 minutes of mobility a day, if not more. But yeah, do your normal run. if you're going to prioritize mobility for any time, try and do it before bed. I don't have children. I don't have a family. I try and make myself do it before television, like while I'm watching TV a little bit before I go to sleep. And it really does help. It'll help with sleep. It'll help with everything. All right, what's the next one? All right, so here's I think this is the last slide. So another big, powerful thing, which to many of us, especially if you're new to this, could be a little woo-woo. It's coming out of the closet. It's everywhere. I'm a huge podcast listener. I listen to athletes, entrepreneurs, just thinkers. All of them have what we call a mindfulness practice. And to me, it's different than meditation. Meditation is trying to devoid your mind of anything, where mindfulness is just you becoming aware of various different, this kind of how your head is, the buzz of it. And it's super easy. It's great to do. It helps with your breathing. It really down-regulates you before bed, and it can help you out with a lot of good stuff. Download the Headspace app and run it. Just go with that. I'm not going to go into my mindfulness right now. It's a whole nother, it's a whole nother presentation. Just download a Headspace app, or just do that box breathing before bed, and it'll really help you. So in summary here, the yoga teaches us a lot for the way I kind of would give it to you right now to start with. Think of the yoga as the yoga ideologies is getting your posture ready. Just kind of have that postural yoga methodology as you're standing. And I'm telling you, I'll slap the table if I have to make it stand out. If you see the dogs believe me. Sorry, my dogs are annoying. Two little rescue puppies. I don't know what they're gonna do next. They or the posture is you take it with you all day long. If you think about all day what you're doing, standing, sitting, whatever, you are having your posture with you. So if you're in a bad postural position, you're priming the system. You're not standing in an athletic way, and then you're going to go ask your body to move in athletic ways. It's going to default to these bad positions. Bad positions slow you down and increase your soreness and also increase your chances of injury. So really set with that. Step one is just, if you're going to take nothing from it, stand with your feet straight. Stand with your feet straight, walk with your feet straight. When I was a kid, they taught me to walk with my toes out. We call it duck walking. Some of you may even be pigeon-toed. Line up the inside of your feet. It. And throughout the day, you'll just have like a little check. Just be like, oh, my feet, look down, Oh, my shoulders, suck them back. And just if you get little reminders, if you're really into it, set reminders in your phone. If you have like an Apple Watch, have it buzz once an hour. And all that is that just reminds you to just stand up, squeeze your butt, straighten your feet, roll your shoulders back, and just hold that position until you forget about it. And then the mobility, like I said, is my favorite. Getting into the joints, getting into the muscles with the tools, with the stuff like that really helps you. It'll unlock your positions. You can get a greater range of motion in your stride. You could have a limited stride or a limited running form because you're running into these walls of soft tissue. But the good news is that your soft tissue is like obedient dogs. And if you put them in and you give them what they need, they're going to change, and they're going to change rapidly. And you're really going to unlock the dynamic potential that's in your body. And I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's always mobility. Any issue you're having with running, any pain that's coming from running, it's not your shoes, it's not your, it's not the nutrition all the time. Most of the time, it is a mobility aspect that needs to be fixed, but it takes time and it takes energy. And it's not sexy. I wouldn't call it a sexy aspect of training, but you'll learn to love it, and you'll learn to really get going with it. So then if you can do the mobility aspect, you can even start to phase in mobility kind of, if you're in one of my classes, you can start to do some do a little stretches, like stretch out your hip flexor, then exhale, lay down into the ball into the hip flexor, like attack it from an angle of the stretching side of yoga, mixing with the breathing side of yoga, and then integrate in some of the mobility tools, and you can really unlock it. Like, you can sit with the ball in your hip, and don't just sit with the ball. You can move your leg through the range of motion and floss through it. And there's a lot to this, and it's a lot to put together in a presentation. But there's plenty of videos out there that I've made and others have made that we can link to as well, just to get you kind of thinking of a movement practice. And then, like I said, this is it. You guys are amazing. Everything you can do, if you attack your recovery, if you attack your mobility, you're going to increase recovery. The little caveat as well is that we are very good at going 0 to 60. We're a group of people. We run. We're athletic. We're dynamic. We're healthy. We're very good at going 0 to 60, like go, 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 go. We struggle with going 60 to 0. And if you can't go 60 to 0, if you can't down-regulate your mind and body, it'll hinder your sleep more so than anything. And the power of sleep is vast. It's infinite. So all this stuff it not only improves your range of motion, improves your running. Honestly, it improves your life. It makes you happier. It makes you healthier. It just gives you a different feel. And you don't have to live with pain. If you're living with a constant chronic pain, even if it's running, like you're running through the power of the pain of shin splints and stuff, maybe back down a little bit and figure this out. There's something going on with soft tissue. If you try this and you go and even get, really step one is try mobility. Step two is I go get a massage. If mobility and a massage is not helping, then I go see an ART specialist. I go see a chiropractor. I go see someone who's smarter than me, and that's usually my protocol. And then hopefully nothing goes wrong from there. But it's usually nothing. We hope it's nothing. People are, if you don't want your knee to be in trouble. You want it just to be an IT band thing. And then yeah, just live happy, live healthy, and live with mindfulness, and you'll dig it. It's a lot to take in, but it gives you something as a little start. They're just little tools. Just go step by step.
Well, I think this is all great, Alex. And again, we'll include a bunch of links and some really helpful stuff. And I think that once everybody's able to kind of see the links and go through it, then
Yeah.
it'll make even more sense. But this is part of the equation, just like running is. And I this time of the year, I get numerous emails on a daily basis about nagging little injuries and nagging soft tissue injuries, and 9.5 times out of 10 I am talking about mobility and asking what they're doing for mobility and prescribing a lot of the stuff that I know that you're a big fan of, Alex. And so I would consider this, that if you're not doing some form of mobility and mobilizing any sort of issue areas, or even if you don't have any pain while you're running,
Yeah, still mobilized. That's not an indicator. I had
exactly.
no pain in my shoulder, and all of a sudden, one lift, I couldn't lift my shoulder above my head.
Exactly. So the point is that there's still plenty of time between now and October 9th or November 6th or whatever your race date is. So start mobilizing. And the biggest takeaway that I have for this, or from this, is keeping it simple.
Yep.
The last thing that we want to have is you listen to this, you go through all the links and everything, and you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. So start super simple. Give it 5-10 minutes at night before you go to sleep, and just work from there. And I think that
Yeah, you can literally set a timer. I began my mobility journey with my leg up a door frame with my clock, timing 2 minutes. And the time is, I don't think I hit on that too much. The time is really important. When you hold, if you're doing a stretch, even with a ball, do it for a minimum of 2 minutes. A lot of times people just bend over and like touch their toes for 15 seconds, and then like, man, I stretched. Like, why am I stiff? No, if you hold the time, your body will relax what's called the stretch receptors. When you put the ball in there, you stretch, your body has a tendency to fritz, like it'll go like, oh my God, that's a trauma. And the breathing and the time will allow your mind to realize it's not a trauma and start to relax a little bit. So set a timer. It's really that's a really powerful one to do, because you'll hold a stretch and you'll be like, this has to be 2 minutes. It'll probably be like 38 seconds. You'll be like, oh man, and it just kind of stay with it. That's a big one, big takeaway.
So, Alex, you mentioned obviously YoBility on your Facebook page. So, and I'm assuming this is cool to kind of send with the follow up with all the links and certainly the link to the webinar here. But for the people that are listening or going to be listening, like can they find you? How can they reach you? In
Yeah,
case they do
totally.
have
You can message on the YoBility page on Facebook. You can have my email. You can use two of them. I use Hofeldt64@gmail.com, and then my podcast, which is Beautiful Dust Specks. It's if you're into science and if you're in the science communication, check out in your podcast listener, check it out. I do talk about health and wellness in there. Either of those emails, yeah, you email me right now. I promise you. Just say you're with the group. I will definitely help you. It's a little difficult sometimes, and if it's really vital, I mean, I could jump on Skype here and there. I think it's Alex-Hofeldt on Skype, and I can help you out with a few things. I love talking about this stuff.
very cool, very
And
cool.
I'm working on videos and such, but that's a work in progress. But again, if you need any of these things, honestly, if you have an issue, if something's going down where you have an issue, say like your lower calf hurts running. Just search lower calf running mobility, and the Google will spit out 100 things at you. And anything by Kelly Starrett, it has my stamp of approval. I don't know the guy, but I've followed his protocols for years. His book, I have it in front of me. There's one called Ready to Run, which is awesome. You can get a ton of stuff from that. But honestly, the internet is just huge. The internet has so much information. Just go to YouTube, just mobilitywod.com. You have to pay for the site now, but he has something like 350 free videos online. just check it out. It's all easy stuff.
And that's
Just start attacking it. You're
that's
not going to screw it up. It'll only
that's
get better.
that's Kelly and then Starrett. And
Yep.
if I was to start a book club for runners, his Ready to Run book would be one of the first ones that I would certainly
Yeah,
recommend.
and
And
supple and become a supple leopard.
absolutely, and I recommend those to a lot of people. So that's cool. But yeah, and then on this next slide, you'll see I added that in there. Alex mentioned Denise. So our next webinar, one of our last webinars of the summer, if you can believe it, is going to be minimizing injury risk. The dogs are excited for it. Minimizing injury risk with Denise Smith. Denise is a physical therapist and also a running technique specialist. She's also based in the Chicagoland area. She's the owner of Smith PT and Running Academy. She's going to build off of the webinar from last month with Athletico Physical Therapy. She can have some really cool stuff in there. So that's on Thursday, August 11th, same time, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Registration links there. I'll obviously send that out via email several times. You're going to want to register the day before. Of course, we'll record that as well. But like I said, I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. If you have any questions that you're thinking of here right now, type them in before we jump off. But I will send the recording out. I'll send links to all this cool stuff that Alex has talked about tonight. And if you get off of the webinar and you're like, oh crap, I had a question, email me. Email Alex. If you forget Alex's email, email me. I'll get you in touch with him. But this is super great stuff. Alex, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your expertise. This is obviously a subject matter that I'm super into, and this has been awesome. It's been super informative.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for all your help. I really enjoyed our conversations, and Denise is great too. I just had a 2 hour. I just hung out with her for about 3 hours yesterday, so
Nice.
she knows her stuff as well.
Cool. Good stuff. All right. So if we don't have any questions, I want to thank everybody for joining, and we'll be in touch soon. All right. Take care.